guys, Becky here from Geniefrog Crochet, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this star stitch, gorgeous stitch, and I'm going to be doing a baby blanket, but obviously once you get to grips with the star stitch, and I'll be telling you how many multiples you need to start your project off, you'll be able to make a scarf or a larger blanket or a bag. It's up to you, the possibilities are endless. But in today's tutorial I'll show you how to do this baby blanket. So the colours I'm going to be using today are, I'm going to be using this Cygnet DK yarn, but obviously you can do this stitch with any weight yarn, and the right hook for that yarn. So I'm going to be using a 4.5mm hook in my tutorial today. So let me go through the colours quickly with you. I've got white, and then I'm going to be using where are we, pink, lilac, cloud, kiwi and buttercream in the Cygnet DK Deluxe yarn. So as I said, that's a DK weight yarn. The recommended hook size is a 4mm, but I like to use a 4.5, sometimes depending on what stitch I'm doing. So for this star stitch I am going to use a 4.5. You will also need excuse me, a pair of scissors, and you will need a darning needle for weaving in your ends. So I'm going to get myself organised, zoom the camera in a little bit, and we will get started. So I'm going to be starting with my pink colour. And before we actually start the repeat of the star stitch is made over 2 rows. But before we do that, we're going to set up like a foundation row. So to start off with, we're going to make a chain. And in this tutorial, I will be using US terms throughout. So we're just going to pop a slip knot on our hook, like so. And for the star stitch, nice and easy, you just want to chain an even number. So any even number, if you want to make a scarf or a longer blanket or a smaller little car seat blanket, as long as you've got an even number, then it will work out fine for you. So for this baby blanket, I'm going to be chaining 130 to start. So to make a chain, you just yarn over and pull through the loop on your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm going to keep going and chain 130, and I will meet back up with you then. So you make your chain as long as you need it for your project, and I'll meet back up with you. There, so I've chained 130. So for this setup row, before we start our star stitch rows, you're just going to make a single crochet into each chain along. Now it's entirely up to you. You can just go straight into the chain if that's how you like to do it, but I'm going to do it in the back bump. So if I zoom in slightly, so in the first chain from your hook, instead of going into the top of the chain here, what I'm going to do is twist it around and go into the back bump, which is there, of my chain. It just gives it a nicer edge. I'm going to make a single crochet in there. So sorry, to make a single crochet, you just insert your hook into that back bump or into the chain, up to you. Yarn over and pull through, yarn over and pull through too. And then once you've done that first back bump stitch, you'll find that your chain will automatically want to twist round on itself, so the back bumps are easier to find then. And you're just going to make a single crochet into each back bump along. And you can see my chains nicely turned over for me now, so the back bumps are a bit more obvious. Or as I said, you can, if you find it easier, because I know when I first started crocheting, I found going into the back bumps quite tricky. So if you did want to just do a single crochet into the first chain here, you can do that as well. So single crochet then into each chain along, like so. So up to you. Both look nice, but I just prefer the back bump for me now. So you want to do that all the way along to the end, single crochets into each chain, back bumps for me, your choice for you. And you'll have a nice long row of single crochets. And then we can start our star stitch. So I will get on with that and I will meet you up in a second. Okay, so I'm just coming up to the end of my chain, my last couple of single crochets in here. And the last one in that fiddly little last back bump. And there we go. So you should have a lovely row of single crochets to set up. And now we can start our star stitch. So it's worked over 2 rows. So for this first row, first of all, we're going to chain 3. And then turn your work. And I'm going to zoom in again. No. Right, now the first star stitch is slightly different to the rest of the way along. So we're going to make our first couple of stitches working down this chain that we've just made. So we're going to skip that first chain and into this second one here. You're going to just insert your hook. This is going to give us a nice straight edge on our blanket. So insert your hook and draw up a loop. And then in this next chain down, I'm going to do the same. Insert your hook and draw up a loop. So now you've got 3 loops on your hook. And then into the first stitch of our row, this first single crochet, we're going to insert our hook, draw up a loop, so you'll have 4 loops on your hook. Into the next stitch, do the same, 5 loops on your hook and into the next stitch the same. So into the stitch, draw up a loop. So you should now have 6 loops on your hook, and this is what we're always working with the star stitch. You need to make sure you've got 6 loops on your hook, and then you're just going to yarn over and pull through all 6 loops like so, and then chain 1 to close it, and working into that chain there will give us a nice straight edge going up the side of our blanket. So to make a normal star stitch then that we're going to repeat all the way along, we're going to get our 6 loops again, and I'll show you where we're going to get them from. So the first one, we go into the eye of the star stitch, so that chain 1 space that we just made that you can see there, that's the eye of your star. So we're going to go into the eye and pull up a loop, so you've got 2 loops. Then we're going to go into the spoke, the first spoke. So if you can see here, you're going to go into that spoke and pull up a loop. So you've got 3 then on your hook. Then you're going to go into the base of your star, so you can see that last stitch that we did is going into this. That's the base of our last stitch, so you want to go into that base and pull up another loop. So now you've got 4, so we need another 2, so you go into the next 2 stitches, then pull up a loop to get 5 loops on your hook, and into the next one, pull up a loop, and you've got your 6 on your hook, and you just yarn over and pull through all 6, and then chain 1 to close your star. It will get easier the more you do, because you'll start to recognize where you're going to go in to get your loops. So I'll show you another few times. So first loop will come from the eye. So we go into the eye, draw up a loop. Then we're going to go around this first spoke. So let me get my needle. So these here are the spokes of your star. So you want to go in between that first and second spoke. I'm going to go in that space there to draw up your next loop. So into the spoke, draw up, you've got 3, then we go into the base where this last one is, draw up a loop, you've got 4, and then we go into the next 2 stitches, draw up a loop in the next one, you've got 5, and into the next one will give you your 6, and then you yarn over and pull through all of the loops on your hook, and then chain 1 to close. So again, eye, spoke, base, next stitch, 5 loops, and the next stitch, 6 loops, yarn over, pull through all 6 loops, and then chain 1 to close. Once you get into a rhythm with it, It's a really nice stitch to do. I find myself chanting in my head, I spoke, base, stitch, stitch. So let's do another one. So go into the eye, pull up a loop, into the spoke, pull up a loop, into that base, pull up a loop, into the next one, pull up a loop, and into the next one, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, go through all 6 loops, chain 1 to close. I'll do one more with you, into the eye, spoke, base, next stitch, next stitch, 6 on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 6, chain 1 to close, and you can see the bottoms of your stars starting to come out. So you want to do that all the way along now. So it's eye, spoke, base, next stitch, and then have a check. You should have 6 loops on your hook then. So you want to yarn over and pull through all 6 and chain 1 to make your eye. So just carry on with that, and I will meet up with you when we get to the end of the row. So I've only got a few more to go. I spoke, base, next, next, and last one, into the eye, into the spoke, into the base, next stitch, next stitch, pull through all 6 and chain 1. And then what we're going to do at the end of the row, into this last, I mean it's not strictly a stitch, with this little chain space here, just going to make a half double crochet just to make a nice straight edge on the other side of our blanket. So to make a half double, you want to yarn over, go into this chain space here, oops, out of camera shot, into this little chain space here, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all of those loops. So you just end your row on a half double crochet. So now we're going to go on to the second row of our repeat. So you want to chain 2 and turn your work, and the second row is really easy. You're just going to make a half double crochet in this first stitch here, into your half double from the last row, and then into this first eye. You see this here, this is the eye of our star stitch. Make a half double crochet into there, and then for the rest of the row you're going to be making 2 half double crochets into every eye of your star stitch. So if you have a look, should be fairly plain to see where the eyes of your stars are, and into each eye you're going to make 2 half double crochets. 1, 2. So yarn over into the next eye, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all loops, and again. So just do 2 half double crochets into your eyes. Some more yarn out. And so the second row is nice and simple. And the further along you get, the easier it is to see where your eyes are as well, because they'll be nice and evenly spaced. And don't worry if, just before you move on, if your work is bowing slightly, like a nice smiley face. Don't worry too much about that, because it will straighten out the more rows that you add on. So don't worry about that too much. So yeah, for this second row of your star stitch, you just want to do a half double crochet into all your eyes, and I will meet you up at the end of the row. So 2 half doubles in every eye along. Until you get to your last eye, and then you're just going to place 1 more half double crochet into this sort of this stitch on the end here. Just going to pop it in there, and that is the end of that row, and that is all you need, those 2 rows to make your star stitch. So I'm gonna repeat the last 2 rows again with this pink, and then I'm gonna change color. So I'll just show you again how we start off that first star stitch. So we chain 3 and turn, and for our first star stitch, our first 2 loops come from our chain 3. So you skip that first one, go into that next chain down, that one there, draw up your first loop, go into the next chain down, that one there, draw up your next loop, so you've got 3 on your hook. Then you go into the first stitch into here, draw up your next loop, so you've got 4, and then 5 from the next stitch, and 6 from the next stitch, and then yarn over and pull through all 6 and chain 1, and that is your starting star stitch. So then you do the same again as you did the first time round into the eye, the spoke, the base, next stitch and next stitch, 6 loops on your hook, yarn over through all 6, chain 1 to close, like so. So repeat this row, this setting up your star stitches. Then the next row is the same as the last one, where you do your 2 half doubles into your eyes, and I will meet up with you at the end of that row and we will change to our next colour. I'll just quickly show you again actually how to go on to the half double row. So I'm just doing my last star here. Go through all 6, chain 1 and then a half double crochet into this last little sort of stitch that isn't really a stitch, but we're just going to go into that chain 2 sort of space there and make a half double crochet and then chain 2, turn your work, and you're going to make 1 half double crochet in that first stitch there, and 1 half double crochet in your first eye, and then 2 in each eye along then, and I'll meet you up at the end of the row and we'll change to our next colour. And it's up to you, you can do as many rows of star stitch in each colour as you like. I'm just going to do 2 because I think it'd be quite nice with this rainbow. So I will meet you up at the end of the row. My last eye, 2 double half double crochets in there, and then I'm going to put 1 in the end, sort of semi stitch here, and then at that point I'm going to fasten off my pink. Like so. I'm going to get my next colour, which is my lilac. Which I haven't yet found the end of, so let's hope it comes out nice and easy. Not too much of a yarn bath, a little bit, but not too bad. So all we're going to do, as soon as we've joined on our new yarn, if you've ever watched any of my other videos, you know I usually use standing stitches, but because we're making the first part of our star stitch into a turning chain, I'm going to, sorry, bear with me, I will get the end of this yarn now. Yeah, because we make the first part of the star stitch into the turning chain, I'm going to just join this yarn on and then I'm going to chain 3 so that we can do what we would have done if we just stuck with the same colour So into the top of that stitch there, I'm just going to join my yarn on with a slip stitch like so. So just fasten it on. Then I'm going to chain 3 as we would if we were staying with the same colour, and then turn my work. And then we're going to do the same as we did before. We're going to pull up our first 2 loops, working down this chain for our star stitch. So we go into that second chain down, pull up a loop, into the third chain down, pull up a loop. I'm going to go into that first stitch that we joined our yarn into, pull up a loop, so then you'll have 4 loops on your hook. So then into the next stitch and into the next stitch. So then you'll have 6 loops on your hook. You can then yarn over, pull through all 6, chain 1, you can just move your end out of the way, and there you have your first star stitch. And what I'll probably do with that end actually is I'll pull it through to the other side of my work, because this is the front with a star stitch there. And I'll just pull it through there so it's at the back. So then you just carry on as you have done before. So you just go into your eye, spoke, base, next stitch, next stitch, 6 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 6, chain 1. Let me just zoom out a little bit. So I am going to go ahead now and do another 2 rows using the lilac. Then I'm going to do 2 with the cloud, 2 with the kiwi, and 2 with the buttercream. Then I'm going to separate them with just 1 row of the white colour, and then I will start again with my pink, then lilac, cloud, kiwi, buttermilk. So I'm going to carry on like that, and I will meet you up after. I'm thinking how many times I'm going to do that. Let's have a look at our... Yes, I think I'm going to repeat my rainbow sequence 3 times, and then I will meet up with you and we'll see how we're feeling about the size of it. And I will show you then how to do the border. Okay, so have fun. Go back and watch these first 2 rows again if you need to. But you've just got 1 row setting up your stars, and then your next row coming back is just your half double crochets into your eyes, and I will meet you back up and we'll see how our rainbows are looking. Okay, so I did 4 repeats of my rainbow spectrum all in all. 2, 3, 4, and that for me worked out at 43 star stitch rows. So obviously, what would that be? 86 rows in total, because you have your half double rows coming back. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave in some of these ends, or all of these ends, before I show you how to do the border. So I'll just do 1 or 2 ends with you now, just to show you how I weave these. So turn over onto the back side of your blanket. Let me get my darning needle here. So as you can see, I made sure all of my ends were coming out the back side of my work. Let me zoom in a little bit here. There we are. So just pop the end of your yarn onto your needle. And I try to make sure I go into the same colour. So I'll work my way down into this purple section here. I like to use a nice sharp needle for weaving in my ends, just so that as well as going underneath stitches, you can also sort of puncture through the yarn itself. And then general rule for me is just to make sure I go through some of the fibres as well, because you want to create as much friction as you can so that the yarn doesn't easily worm its way out the other way. And general rule for me is 3, the rule of 3. So we've gone in one direction and then I'll go back in the other direction. That's 2. Where's my end? There it is. And then I'll just go back again under some stitches, pull it through, but obviously don't pull it too tight because you don't want to pucker your yarn, and also if you pull it too tight, the second it's sort of moved and manipulated, it's going to pop right out again. So that is weaved in there. So I'm going to do that now for, there we go, I'm going to do that for all of my ends down the side, and then I will meet back up with you and show you how we're going to do this lovely moss stitch border. It's a nice simple one, but I think it looks lovely because it doesn't detract away from the gorgeous star stitch. I do like the way it's come out in these colours. Looks beautiful. So there we go. I'm going to weave in my ends and I'll meet up with you in a second. Okay, so once you've weaved in all your ends, now the border is optional. You don't have to do a border. I actually think this works up quite nice. Got quite a lovely straight edge, the way we do the star stitch. But I am going to show you how I do the moss stitch border that I did on the other one. So I'm going to get my white yarn that I've used. So I've just done a single stripe of the white in between my rainbows. So I think it'll look quite nice with the white around the edge. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to join into the first stitch. So I'm going to put a slip knot on my hook, like so. And in the very first stitch in the top corner, so with the right side facing you, into that very first stitch, I'm going to join with a standing single crochet. So I'm going to insert my hook and pull up a loop, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through both loops to make a standing single crochet. Let me zoom in a little bit. No, that's zooming out. I will get the hang of this one day. Okay, so do a moss stitch. Basically make it single crochet, and then you chain 1 skip one stitch, and then make a single crochet in the next. And then you chain one, skip one stitch, and a single crochet in the next. And we're going to do that all the way along. Chain one, skip one, chain one, skip one, single crochet in the next. So we're going to do that all the way along until we get to the end of the row, to the corner, and then I'll show you how we turn and go back down the other side. Okay, so I'll meet up with you at the end of the row. Okay, so I'm just coming up to my last couple of stitches. Chain one, skip one, and your last single crochet should be in your very last stitch of your row. So what we're going to do now is we're going to chain two to create a corner, and you're going to turn your work then, and we're going to be working down the side edge, and we're basically going to do the same thing, but it's a bit trickier going down the side because you haven't got actual stitches to go into. So you've chained two, and we're going to pop a single crochet in the side of the half double crochet row, and then you're going to chain one. So let me zoom in again. We're going to evenly space our moss stitch going down the side. So we've gone into the side of that half double crochet row, chain one, and then we're going to go into basically next to where your stars are. So you're always going to have a stitch next to your star. So a single crochet in there, chain one, and then again into the side of the half double crochet row. Single crochet in there, chain one, single crochet next to your star, chain one, single crochet in the half double crochet row. So they should end up, if you stick to that pattern next to the star, chain one in the half double crochet row, chain one next to the star, chain one. Let me zoom back out again. So you should see how your single crochets and your chain ones will be evenly spaced along then. So one into the side of the half double crochet row, chain one, one into the row where the centers of your stars are. So we're going to do that all the way along. The second row of the border is much easier because you'll be going into your chain one spaces of your moss stitch. So this setup row, you just got to make sure you evenly space them. One in the half double, one where your star is, one in the half double, one where your star is. Okay, so continue with that all the way down to your next corner, and I will meet you back up there. Okay, so I'm just coming up to the corner, one in the side of the half double row, chain one, one in the side by the star, chain one, and we're going to put our last single crochet into the side of this half double crochet row, single crochet, then we're going to chain two again to create a corner, and we're going to turn our work. So now we're going to be working along the bottom side of the blanket. So you've chained two for your corner, so go into that first stitch, which might be a bit tricky to find. There we go. Into the first stitch with a single crochet, and then chain one, skip one into the next stitch, and do your moss stitch then in that way. Chain 1, skip 1, all the way along the bottom. Okay, and I will meet you up again at the next corner so that we can turn and work up that last side. Okay, so I'm almost at my next corner. Chain 1, skip 1, and you should be putting your last single crochet into that very last stitch. So then I'm going to chain 2 to make my corner, twist my work around so that I'm now working down this side, and we ultimately want to do the same thing. We want to put 2 single crochets in each sort of star row, but the first one goes into the side of the half double crochet row. Oops, single crochet, chain 1, and then as we did before, the second one wants to go into this row where your eyes of your stars are. It's not as clear down this side, but you just want to pop a single crochet into the middle of that row of stars, and then you chain 1 and then 1 into the side of this half double crochet row. It doesn't really matter where you pop it as long as they're evenly spaced. I just find this is a good way for me to know using the eyes of the stars. So you have 1 sort of in between these half double crochet rows, and then 1 directly next to where your eyes of your stars are. So chain 1, 1 into the side of the half double crochet row, chain 1, 1, lining up the eyes of your stars. I hope that makes sense. Let's zoom out a little bit so you can see it a bit better. So you have 1 in the side and then 1 lining up with your eyes, 1 in the side, 1 lining up with your eyes. So you want to do that again all the way down, and then we will be back at the beginning and I'll show you how to join on, and we will start row 2. Okay, so I just got my yellow section to go. So 1 in line with the star, 1 in the half double crochet row, line with the star, and then 1 last one in the side here to line up with the double crochet row. So then we're going to chain 2, which makes our corner, and turn, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to join to our first single crochet with a slip stitch. Like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip stitch into that first slip stitch to the top of the single crochet. So into this first chain 1 space here, I'm going to slip stitch into that, and then I'm going to do a chain 1 just to get me up to the correct working height, and then into that same chain 1 space I'm going to make a single crochet. And this next row is much easier because all the way around we're going to be making moss stitch again, but each of your single crochets is going to be going in the chain 1 spaces between your single crochets of your last row. So I've done a single crochet there. I'm going to chain 1 and then a single crochet into the next chain 1 space, chain 1, single crochet in the chain 1 space, chain 1, and we're going to do this all the way around. And we'll go along. I'll meet you up at the corner now just to show you what we do at the corner. So continue your moss stitch all the way along, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1. This is why I love moss stitch, because it's so, you can get in such a lovely rhythm doing it. So there, I'll meet you up at the corner just to show you how we make the corner, and the rest of it is easy peasy. So I'll meet you up in a second. Okay, so nice and easy when you get up to your corner. So we put a single crochet in that last chain 1 space, and then chain 1, and here you can see we've got our chain 2 space that we made. So every time you get to your corner chain 2 space, in that space we're going to make a single crochet, chain 2, and another single crochet into the same space. So we're creating another corner ready for our next row. So then down the edge, and for all of the other sides you just continue with your moss stitch. So chain 1, skip that first single crochet and go into the chain 1 space, chain 1, single in the chain 1 space, chain 1, single in the chain 1 space. So continue all the way around your blanket, and when you get to your corner chain 2 spaces you just make a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet into that chain 2 space. I will meet up with you when we get to the end of this second row of the border. I'm just coming up to my last corner. So single in that last chain 1 space, chain 1, and then in that chain 2 corner space I'm going to pop in single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. I'm going to turn my work around, and then I'm going to chain 1, skip this first single crochet, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that first single crochet that we made, that one there. Slip stitch, and then I'm going to do the same as what I did at the beginning of the row. I'm going to slip stitch over into that next chain 1 space, and to start my next row I'm going to chain 1 and then single crochet in that same chain 1 space, and that single crochet then is the one you will join to at the end of this row. So it's totally personal preference now how many rows of moss stitch you'd like to do, but you just repeat the same as the last row. Basically chain 1, single crochet into the chain 1 spaces from the last row, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in your corner spaces, and like I said, when you get around to the beginning now, slip stitch into that single crochet. If you'd like to do another row you can slip stitch over into the chain 1 space, chain 1, and pop your first single crochet in there. So I think I'm going to do possibly 3 or 4 rows, maybe even 5. I'll see how I go, and I will meet back up with you when I've done that. Okay, so go for it, as many rows as you'd like. I mean, I think, to be honest, 2 rows even looks nice. So if you wanted to fasten off there, if you meet up with me in a second, I'll show you when I get to the end of my final row how to fasten off. Okay, so I've decided to go with 4 rows of moss stitch for my blanket. So I'm just at my last corner. Chain 2, 1, and you can see there's my stitch where my row started. So I've got a couple of stitches to go along before I can fasten off. Last chain 1, and then just join in to that first single crochet with a slip stitch, like so, and then I'm simply going to cut my yarn and secure that end, and then I'm going to weave in my last couple of tails, and that is your star stitch baby blanket finished. So I will pop all of the yarn amounts that I used in the description box, but I'm really pleased because I used less than 1 ball of all of my colours. So I'm gonna have to think of what I can do with what's left now. So thank you very much for watching. I really hope that you've found this video helpful. Star stitch is genuinely one of my favourite stitches. I think it looks so pretty, and it's really nice for a baby blanket because it doesn't have holes that the baby can get their fingers trapped in. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. As always, please like and subscribe if you have enjoyed. There is a link to my Ko-fi if you'd like to make a little donation, buy me a coffee. And all the links to my socials are down underneath. I have got a Facebook community group if you want to come and join us on there. It's a lovely small group at the moment with some really good tips and tricks. There's a lot of crocheters in there. So yeah, it's a really friendly space. So if you want to come and join in with that, please do. And I will see you again next time. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.